ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। We'll chant Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verses 25 to 30.
सक्ता कर्मण्य विद्वांसः यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद्विद्वांस्तथा सक्तः चिकीर्षुर्लोकसङ्ग्रहम् न बुद्धिभेदं जनयेत् अज्ञानां कर्मसङ्गिनां जोषयेत् सर्वकर्माणि विद्वान् युक्तः समाचरन् प्रकृते क्रियमाणानि गुणैः कर्माणि सर्वशः अहङ्कारविमूढात्मा कर्ताहमिति मन्यते तत्त्ववित्तु महाबाहो गुणकर्मविभागयोः गुणागुणेषु वर्तन्ते इति मत्वा न सज्जते प्रकृतिर्गुणसम्मूढाः सज्जन्ते गुणकर्मसु तान् कृत्स्नविदो मन्दान् कृत्स्नविन्न विचालयेत् मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतसा निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा युध्यस्व विगतज्वरः.
This chapter 3, entitled as Karma Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we have now studied up to shloka number 24. Now, in the first 3 shlokas, Sri Krishna introduces the path of action. Arjuna asks a question: if you have been praising knowledge, why should I follow action? For which Sri Krishna explains, saying, extroverted people need to do action in the beginning to reduce the bulk of the desires, and it has to be done in the spirit of yajna. And then you become introverted, qualify for the knowledge, and then gain the knowledge and liberate yourself. So therefore, he advises, intellectually, he appeals to Arjuna from verse number 4 till 19 to do the action. He explains what is yajna, how it is important, what kind of benefits it can give you, how it can help you to achieve material success and spiritual evolution, both. All that he explained. And through that, you can attain enlightenment. Once you attain enlightenment, thereafter, you don't act for happiness, you act out of happiness. Without wanting anything, without expecting anything, you express your nature cheerfully, joyfully. This is what he said. And then in 19, when he concluded the intellectual appeal, he says, therefore, Arjuna, do action in the spirit of yajna. Then from 20 to 24, in the third topic, he appeals to Arjuna emotionally. See, our action is either propelled by the mind or the intellect or the combination. The best is the combination. What you feel, your intellect also supports, saying, yes, that's the right thing to do. So, if an action is backed both by the feeling and the logic, it will be very forceful. So Sri Krishna appeals to Arjuna intellectually as well as emotionally. In 20, he said, all these people like King Janaka and others, they have achieved perfection only through action. And Arjuna has a lot of devotion to these great people of the past. So he is appealing to Arjuna's devotion, saying that, see, these people achieved perfection through action. They did not give up action. King Janaka goes to Ashtavakra sage, gains the knowledge. After gaining the knowledge also, he continued being the king. It really doesn't matter what lifestyle you follow after you realize, even before. In fact, you must follow your Swadharma. That shloka is coming in verse number 35, chapter 3, this chapter. That's another very interesting and important verse, where the Swadharma, one's own nature, is emphasized. So each one should perform their duty, continue being in their Swadharma. King Janaka, after realization of the self also, continued being the king. So he says, people like King Janaka, they achieve perfection through action. You can also achieve that perfection through action, Arjuna. So he's appealing to Arjuna's devotion. And then, he's persuading Arjuna by saying that you may not have any personal interest in this war. Like he said, no, it is better for me to die than to achieve this kingdom, which will be soaked in the blood of Kauravas, all these people. So he's expressing, saying that I'm not interested in the kingdom. So Sri Krishna says, Arey, you may not have any interest in anything in this war, but at least for the welfare of the world you do. He's personally persuading Arjuna. So he's using persuasion as a tool to convince Arjuna to act. Rise above your personal level and act in the welfare of the world, the interest of the world. Then Arjuna, being a Rajasic person, has vanity and also is a leader. So he is giving a very important shloka in verse number 21. He says, Yadyat acharati shreshtaha tattat eva itara janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokha tat anuvartate. Whatever the leader does, that alone the followers will do. Shreshta Purusha means leader. Whatever the leader does, that alone the followers will do. Whatever standard the leader sets, that is what everybody will follow, emulate. So your video is more powerful than audio. You are being constantly watched, observed. What you do, they are not bothered about what you say. They are concerned with what you do. That is more infectious. Children at home, they are observing what we are doing. We may be saying one thing and doing another thing. And they will only do what we do. That's why last week I gave the example of how you are taking care of your parents or grandparents at home. They are constantly observing. They are watching. You may be telling them, you must be grateful, you must take care of them, you must do your obligation, you must speak the truth. All these things you may be verbally saying. But are you actually following it? That matters. In fact, that alone matters. So, he says, as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader, you have an obligation to do. You have to set an example. So, Arjuna, you are a leader. People look up to you. So, he's touching his vanity and telling, you must therefore set an example. If you will leave this battle, then easily everybody will quote you and they will also leave. So therefore he says, as a Shrestha Purusha, as a leader, you must set an example. This is one of the most important quality of a leader. See, there's a very, very interesting poetry by William Wordsworth. It's called Ladomia. It's a very big poem. It talks about wife's infatuation to husband. The husband is a warrior. He goes to the other country in a ship. They are going there to fight. And when the ship reaches the destination and they are getting down, an oracle says that whoever lands first, whoever gets down first will die. And everybody is discussing who should get down first. Ladomia's husband, Protesilaus, he jumps. He's not bothered. He dies. The story goes like that. I'm not getting into the story now. But the point here is, who is going to take the plunge? Everybody talks. Who is going to set an example? So that's what he says. Arjuna, you are a warrior. You are a Kshatriya. You have to defend righteousness and people look up to you. You have to set the standard. You see, recently in Indian cricket team, Shubman Gill was made the captain of the Indian cricket team. Very young youngster. He's a youngster. I don't know how old is he. Maybe 23 or what. I don't know. Around that age. And they've made him the captain. Now he has to command respect. He has to set himself as an example. And he's been scoring centuries. First test match, he scored 1 century. In the second test match, which is going on right now in England, he scored double century in the first innings and century in the second innings. So you got to command respect, not demand respect. As a leader, you have to set an example. So that's why he says, Yad yad acharati shreshtaha tat tat eva itarajanaha. Sayat pramanam kurute lokha tat anuvartate. That alone they will follow. That standard alone they'll follow. You want your team to be punctual, you have to be punctual. You want the cleanliness to be maintained in your society, in your team, in your office, organization, family, you got to set that standard. That is what he's saying. So he's touching the vanity of Arjuna there. And then Arjuna might think, oh, you're talking about all these things. What about you? So he gives himself as an example, personal appeal. He says, Arjuna, in these 3 worlds, I have nothing to do, man. I have accomplished what has to be accomplished. Enlightened, liberated. I have no desires or wants. Yet, though I don't have anything, I don't have anything to do, achieve anything in life, yet I engage myself in action, he says. So it's a personal appeal. You may not be interested, but at least see, I'm doing, why don't you do? So it's a personal appeal that he makes. And then he says, if I don't engage in action, what will happen if I don't engage in action? Everybody will follow me. Men would in every way follow me. In this shloka 23, where he uses fear as a tactic, psychological tactic, he is speaking as Ishvara, not as Mr. Krishna. So he is telling, if Ishvara is not functioning, the laws would not be maintained. Then what will happen to this whole universe? There will be chaos. It won't be a cosmos. So therefore, even I engage in action. So he says, if I don't act, even though I have no desire to act. And if I don't act, world will follow me. And what will happen? He says, if world follows me, there will be adharma prevailing, confusion prevailing. That's the last psychological tactic he uses, threat. So the consequences will be very, very severe and deadly. There will be confusion of caste. Tamasic people will be ruling, not the Sattvic people. So all these things, it's deadly, isn't it? See, at the top, a person who's a thinker and emotionally intelligent, mature, that person should be the leader. Isn't it? If a selfish person with no heart expansion, negative, destructive in nature fellow comes at the top, what will happen? So that's why it is important a leader should be one who has developed the intellect, pure emotions, acts in the welfare of the world. Such a person should be there. That's what actually the caste system talks about. Unfortunately, it is all misunderstood and misinterpreted for some individuals' benefits. But actually, the caste system, Sri Krishna mentions in the Gita that it is based on gunas. It is based on gunas, not by birth. You may be by birth a Brahmana, but by guna, if you are not a Brahmana, you are not a Brahmana. Right? And some people may have no guna of Brahmana, but may be doing Brahmanical actions. Just imagine, if your guna is not Brahmana, you're tamasic or rajasic, and if you are doing Brahmanical actions, you'll be expecting. While doing the activities of a Brahmana, you will be expecting things in return. So, therefore, he says there will be confusion, meaning confusion of caste, meaning it is not that he is promoting caste system. What he is trying to say is, according to their gunas, each one should be in that level so that there is system maintained in the world. Basically, he is talking about dharma. So he says, Arjuna, if I don't act, people will follow me as an example, and then there will be confusion of caste, meaning there will be adharma. The system is maintained. When we are running a small family or an organization or an industry also, even if you have, let's say, 10,000 employees working in your industry, it is nothing compared to running the universe. Isn't it? So much of population, human population, other species, everything is maintained meticulously. Who is doing this? The child that is conceived in the womb, the law works and is taken care of. The system works. So that's what he's saying. In a way, he is shifting our attention to the total from local. The problem is we are all looking things locally from our selfish level. Me and my laws, everything from my individual egoistic angle, I look at everything. And I shrink in my thought, and the quality of my life also starts shrinking and stinking. This is what happens. So he's expanding our thought to the totality. What you're talking about, your losses, you are not interested. All whatever Arjuna spoke in the first chapter is from this angle. I don't want this kingdom to be soaked in the blood of all these people. So everything from his personal angle. I will be killing, I will be incurring sin. So therefore, Sri Krishna says, rise above your selfish anglement. Look at the whole thing from the total. We don't do things that we ought to do, or we do things that we ought not to do. Commissions and omissions happens when we become very selfish in our thinking. So therefore he says, rise above your selfish level. These worlds would perish if I did not perform action. I should be the cause of confusion of castes and should destroy these people. You're talking about few people being destroyed. But if there is adharma, lot more destruction will be there. Therefore, it is important to maintain that dharma. So he appeals using these 6 psychological tactics: devotion, persuasion, vanity, personal angle, fear, and threat. So intellectually, he explained to Arjuna from verse number 4 to 19 the importance of action, the value of action, why you should act. Then emotionally also is appealed from 20 to 24. Now this seems to have worked with Arjuna. So from now, verse number 25 till 35, he gives the technique of right action. He starts moving in that direction. Now that he's convinced Arjuna, through Arjuna, all of us, he's convinced. I suppose so. We should be convinced by now that we should not give up action. We should do action. And he now starts slowly taking us towards the technique of right action. The crux of Karma Yoga. What is the blueprint of right action? In fact, that exact verse is verse number 30. But this whole topic, 25 to 35, very important topic in this chapter and in the entire Gita. The technique of right action. He talks about from verse number 25. And then in this 25, what he does is, 25th shloka, he compares a wise man with the unwise and explains what is actually the difference. Is the difference there in the action or in the attitude? Is it external or internal? That he beautifully explains. So let's get on to verse number 25.
Sakta karmanya vidvamsaha yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvams tatha saktaha chikirshur loka sangraham.
O Bharata, O Arjuna, as the ignorant act attached to action, so should the wise one act unattached, wishing the welfare of the world. So he says, both the wise person and the unwise act in the world. There is no difference with reference to performing their duties, action. What is the difference? He says, the ignorant person, the unwise, act attached in the world. Whereas the wise one should act unattached in the interest of the world, welfare of the world. So the difference is what? There are 3 types of actions: selfish, unselfish, selfless. The unwise performs selfish action. Wise people, they perform unselfish and selfless action. That's the difference. Both do the action. Wise person acts keeping the higher goal, sets a higher vision, higher goal, and dedicates the action for that goal, rising above the egocentric desires, and does the action without egoistic attitude. Whereas the unwise has no higher goal, higher purpose. Their interest is khao, piyo, maja karo. That's it. Eat, drink, have fun. That's their goal. There's nothing beyond their selfish interests they can think of. So that is how unwise people act, and they act terribly attached. They do selfish action with tremendous expectations and doership. I'm doing. I hope I will get the result. And they're very much result oriented. So all these are there. You say the unwise people act attached. What is that attachment? I am doing the action. I need to achieve this through this action. And I hope I'll get it. And whosoever will be an obstruction for me to achieve this, I'll develop agitation, anger towards them. All these are part and parcel of attachment. There will be too much of excitement, not enthusiasm. Because if you see a person who is attached, maybe he will or she will function as a workaholic. But if there is a threat to their objective to be achieved, they'll get disappointed. They lose their enthusiasm. Whereas a person who does it for the welfare of the world with no personal motive finds satisfaction, contentment, joy, happiness in the action, not in the result. Therefore, he or she continues acting enthusiastically. So you will find enthusiasm in the action which is done without attachment. It's bigger. There is inspiration. Whereas in the action performed by the unwise, they'll be dragging themselves to action. They'll be excited for a while till they think they are going to get the results. Even then, there'll be some kind of a fear, insecurity. I hope we'll be able to retain it and all that. So, this is how an unwise person functions. Unintelligent person who has no higher knowledge. So, they don't have anything higher. So, they are attached to the lower. Wise people, they understand the bigger picture. So, what do? They identify with a higher goal. They have dedicated their ego, not dedicated, they have sacrificed their ego in the higher altar. That is what symbolism of Jesus Christ being crucified indicates. Right? The individual ego crucified in the altar of the higher self. So, that's how they function. There is no thought of this individual whatsoever while acting. And that's why while acting, they are very enthusiastic, cheerful. There is no insecurity, no fear, nothing. So he says, ignorant people act attached. The wise people do action in this way, identifying with a higher goal. As a result, they are detached from the lower. They are not bothered about the results and all that. See, when we say that they are not bothered about the results while acting, isn't it? While acting, they are not bothered. They have obviously planned and they are going about executing their planning. All that he will explain in detail in verse number 30. So, there is intellect backing their action. When they are doing action, and he says the wise people are doing unattached, the very fact that they are unattached means the intellect is backing their action. If there is no intellect, only mind is there, then they will be attached to action. So the intellect is backing the action, they are unattached. Their focus is in doing what is to be done and not in the result. This is what unattached means. They are all identifying with the higher purpose, that goal. And they, having set the goal, they forget about getting there and continue walking in the path, doing what has to be done with no expectations, no attachment. And throughout, the intellect is constantly backing the action. Always, it's always available during the action. It is before, during, and after. The intellect's availability is before, during, and after in the wise person's case. So that's why he says, Sakta, Asakta. Sakta means attached. Unwise people are attached. Wise people are unattached. Externally, if you see, the fact that they are acting so enthusiastically, it may be misunderstood that they are also attached. Right? So, for example, every year we have annual Gita lectures called as Gita Jnana Yajna. Nowadays, Sunandaji comes and conducts the Yajna. But the tradition initially was started by Chinmanandaji, and then it was continued by our Swamiji. And when Swamiji comes or Sunandaji comes, we are conducting this Yajna. There's a team of people who are involved in organizing this Yajna. So the stage, the table which is covered with white cloth, every detail is taken care of. The cloth has to be ironed. Now, the idea is, the Gita always talks about Shaucham, purity, cleanliness. If we are not aware of the external cleanliness, how are we going to see the external dirt? How are we going to see the internal dirt? So, therefore, we try to maintain the external cleanliness. Now, it appears as if, everybody is too involved. They are so much, a little bit, the cloth has shrunk this side, we need to iron there, little dirt there, it has to be clean. It looks as if, why you fellows are all attached? Some people may think like that. Now, it may appear as if they are attached. That's why I'm giving that example. They're not attached. They'll try to remove the dirt and iron it and put it back. But if for some reason that dirt is not going and we've tried our best and there is no other cloth, we'll use it. They're not attached. But you have to be conscious. So there's a difference. Otherwise, fellows will be agitated. So, externally, when you observe the action of a Mahatma, of a wise person and the unwise, it can be misunderstood by people who are not evolved. It will appear as if like that, very much involved, but detached. It's an internal process, internal adjustment. That is seen only by people who are also equally evolved. That's why they say only a Milton can understand a Milton. So what happens is, in the name of spirituality, people keep saying contented, chalega, kya kare, it's okay. So you become very tamasic, which is not true spirituality. You find that a lot of us become tamasic in the name of spirituality, or we remain rajasic, extremely hyper, excited, getting involved. What is happening? What is happening? What is happening? Even when we conduct this yajna, we brainstorm to see as to how we can communicate this to a lot more people. How we can take this knowledge to a lot more people. Not that we are involved. Let's say for whatever reasons, the response to the lectures are less. It's not that the organizers or the guru or anybody is agitated, but they continue doing their duty to see how we can communicate in this modern world. Should we use social media? What we can do? Which way we can communicate to people? That effort continues without involvement. That's what I'm trying to say. So in that effort, with that enthusiasm when a wise person functions, it can be misunderstood as if they are involved. So that's what he's saying here in this shloka. O Bharata, O Arjuna. The difference is not in the external action. If you go by the external action, you may not understand. The difference is in the inner attitude, inner approach, maturity. That's why he says, wise one should act uninvolved, without getting attached. When we use the word involvement, don't go to the dictionary and see the meaning of the word involvement and get confused. We are using the word uninvolved. Involvement should not be there. In the sense that mental attachment, involvement should not be there. Physically, it should appear as if your whole life depends on it. Give yourself totally, completely. You will not leave any stone unturned. Like a river that is flowing towards the ocean. The goal of the river is to go to the ocean. It has risen from that, it will go back. On its way, there may be rocks obstructing. It will crush them to small stones, pebbles, and continue moving towards the ocean. If it's a huge mountain that is obstructing, they'll go around the mountain and they'll go reach the ocean. So, whatever may be the obstacles that is coming from without or within, objectively they will handle it. But they will never give up their action. And the best example is Sri Krishna himself. So many obstacles. Easily we could have given up. Rahu is against us, Ketu is against us, Ye against, Wo against. We can keep giving all those excuses and say, okay, we will not do. We'll start from next month. No. You have sacrificed, you should have sacrificed your ego to the goal and simply see, okay, this obstacle, this new challenge has come. Now, how do we go about? Constantly, there will be challenges coming in new directions and dimensions, new ways. You don't know, isn't it? Now, like we say, BC, AD, before Christ, after death. Before Corona, after Corona. Now, many things have changed. So, we have to adapt to that new challenge. And something new will come. By the time you get adapted to all these things, something new will come. So then, you have to constantly keep yourself cheerful and objective. Rather than saying, "Arey yaar, itna problem solve kiya, abhi naya problem aa gaya." No, nothing. That is what he's saying. If you're attached to it, thoda sa let me relax. Why are you keeping event immediately after another event? Sometimes it's unavoidable. We have to have certain events in certain periods of time because of so many reasons. अरे यार अभी एक event conduct किया, भी थक गया, दूसरा event. So you don't look at it from your personal angle. That's what I'm giving the example for. So that enthusiasm will be there. And a person who's unattached, with all this enthusiasm and dynamic action, when he or she hits the pillow, can fall off to sleep within few seconds. This is what Swami Ramtita calls as intense work is rest. Person who is involved cannot. I hope the results will come tomorrow. What will happen? Will this happen? Will that happen? There is no surrender to the total. There's another interesting poem, very beautiful poem, called Olive Tree. In that, there are two hermits who have planted olive sapling. They wanted olive oil for the midnight prayer, so they thought they will grow olive tree. One fellow was constantly asking, "Oh God, give rain for my sapling, give sunlight, give this, give that." And as he asked, was given. But still his olive tree died. He went to see what happened to the other person's olive tree. It was growing nicely. So he's asking, how is this possible? How is it, my brother? Tell. He's asking. And then he says, I entrusted it to him. He who made it knew what it needed better than a man like me. Laid I on him no conditions. Laid I on him no conditions. I entrusted my little tree to him. He who made it knew what it needed better than a man like me. So, you do everything. You don't leave any stone unturned. Whatever is in your capacity, you do with full enthusiasm. At the same time, you are relaxed. This is called unattachment means. See, he very easily says, wise one acts unattached, wise one acts unattached, unwise acts attached. Very easily he says that. Now, we have to understand what is this unattachment means. It was announced in Ramayana that Lord Rama will be coronated next day morning. All announcements and arrangements were made. Right? And he was called the previous night and told, listen, you have to go to the forest. Be there for 14 years. All that was told. Without any problem, cheerfully he took his, small set of clothes and then left. He left Lord Rama. Of course, Lakshmana and Ma Sita, everybody, followed him. That's a different thing. But then, point is, all of them, no expectation, nothing. Tomorrow morning, I was going to become the king. Today I have to go. Today I am told to go and spend in the jungle. How will you feel? You have to be absolutely detached, isn't it? It's not possible otherwise. That's what he's saying. A wise one is absolutely unattached. How is that unattachment possible? It is the knowledge of the higher that makes it possible. I mentioned to you time and again, whenever we talk about detachment, renunciation, what should come in your mind? Knowledge. Knowledge of the higher. The lower is, you become detached with reference to the lower, only with the knowledge of the higher and attachment to the higher. And that is what he says. With Bharata, as the ignorant act attached to action, so should the wise one act unattached, wishing the welfare of the world. Welfare of the world means higher goal. The smaller self, the little self, small I, is sacrificed in the higher goal. and simply plunge using your buddhi. We must function in the world, be in the world like a plant or a tree on the roadside, not the ones in your garden. Even ones in the garden is a good example, but at least you are taking care of it. A roadside, completely exposed to the sun above, the heat, the wind, rain, everything, cheerfully growing, blossoming. This happens because of your confidence in the reality, confidence in the totality, confidence in that supreme power. Like Shakespeare says, there's a divinity that shapes our end, that shapes our ends. There's a divinity. We forget. We keep everything on our shoulders. That's called attachment. That knowledge that makes it possible. When you constantly reflect upon this higher knowledge, not just once in a while you hear lecture and then switch off. But when you constantly dwell upon this knowledge and reflect, you build that confidence. You remember in the class we have mentioned, you move from your, confiding in the world to confiding in God. Then from confiding in God, you move to confiding in yourself. Isn't it? That's how we grow. Now we are all confiding in the material things that we have acquired. We are, every day morning when you get up, house is there, children are there, the car is there, this is there, that is there. So our confidence is coming from these things. We think we feel secure because of these things. Are they really giving us the security that we want? They themselves need protection. So initially, the mind, which is not mature, unwise, tries to find security in these things, in the world. Then God, the concept of God. Then you really understand this concept of God is really nothing but my real self. The whole thing shifts. So your mind, as you gain this knowledge, your heart starts expanding. Instead of just working for yourself, now you will be working for the welfare of the world. Not that the world is in need of your service. Not with that attitude. You understand, okay, world doesn't require my service. World will continue with or without me. But identifying with the higher and functioning makes me purify. Makes me get purified. Purifies my inner personality. So for my sake, I need to do. My sake means for the evolution. So with that understanding, with no ego, you will plunge. Not worried who will provide me the food. Huh? On the road, when we go, you find a lot of stray dogs. Very well fed, very well taken care of. They have no houses, no bank balance, nothing. Happily they're sleeping. They're playing also. Sometimes they are playing together, enjoying. We have no time to play. We have no time to be happy. So, when you keep gaining this knowledge, you will develop the courage. It is real sannyas. It is sannyas spirit. See, whenever we talk about sannyas, we think of sannyas lifestyle only. What is important is the sannyas spirit. Lifestyle doesn't matter. Some people may need it. They may do it for certain reasons. It may not be required for you. That's what he quoted, no? King Janakanda. They didn't take sannyas. There was no requirement for them. But they were great sannyasis. So therefore, that sannyas, unattachment, is nothing but the courage that comes from knowledge of the higher. When we understand this, while we were in mother's womb, who took care of us? Who made sure that the food eaten by the mother reached us? What helped us to grow? What is making sure that the food eaten by us is getting digested, distributed? There is a law, there is dharma that is beautifully functioning. Meticulously, the rains come, the weather changes. So the moment we begin to understand these things, when we gain the knowledge, go deeper, and the heart starts expanding, automatically the selfishness that is corroding us today will start slowly dissolving. So that's what he's explaining here. The wise people who have understood, they act in the spirit of yajna, unattached, doing the same thing. Before the knowledge, Janaka was a king. After the knowledge, he continued being the king. So before you could have been doing business. After this knowledge, you can continue doing business. You may continue doing business. But there will be tremendous difference. Huge difference. What? All this that I talked about. Unbelievable confidence, enthusiasm, cheerfulness, relaxed, no fear whatsoever. There is you walk freely. That's what he says. Wise one acts unattached. So all these points you must remember. Externally, when you see, you may mistake the wise person also to be attached. So happens many times. What is this here? This Swami, so finicky. Why haven't you cleaned this? Why you have not kept it, everything clean? So, Swami seems to be agitated. No, there may be some people who are agitated. That's a different thing. But a wise man externally, if you are also not evolved, you will think, hey, he's also involved. He knows, whoever is evolved knows how much ever you clean, it is impossible to be perfect externally. But never ever falling into tamas. While we should not get attached and become rajasic, we should not fall into tamas. This is another problem. Easily we'll slip into tamas. And we'll be quoting Gita, we'll be quoting all the scriptures, Mahatmas. And a lot of people think, they are spiritual. That is not spirituality. So wise person also will be acting. There is action in our country at large, if you see. Even temples. Even we who go to the temples, okay, fine, you believe in all those things, astrology, okay, fine. And you therefore go and do certain pujas, you take oil, you take this and that, and then you do those rituals, fine. But how have you kept that place? You go to those places in the temple where people do all these things. It is very messy. Why should it be like that? It is nothing but tamas. So that is what he's saying. The wise one acts unattached with no tamas, no rajas, satvikli, as though he is dependent and attached and involved in the action. But internally not attached. No award is given. They're not bothered. No tree is concerned. Are they going to pick me as the best fruit supplier, simply gives fruit, simply gives flowers, simply goes about doing with no expectations, nothing. That's what he says. Unattached. Let's conclude. Oh. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.